This Arceus deck is unlike anything you've seen before, and I promise that is not an exaggeration. Hey, Nick from 9Card TCG, and today we are looking at a deck list from Mysterious Player, which, yeah, they are in fact mysterious. So they won the Senior Doom Tournament of Doom recently. It was an online tournament, and they played an Arceus Lost Zone deck, something that I have not seen before. Really cool. We're going to go ahead, take a look at the deck profile, see what games or what matches they won, and then do our own game. I took this deck to locals, played it, and yeah, so why don't we get right to it. So here is the deck list, and it's very much Sablezard, but with Arceus, and it's weird, but I love it. A 4-3 Arceus line means we're probably going to see some Arceus action during this game. We got our 4 Comfeys, we got a Minion to help find supporters. We have a Sableye to pick things off, and we can put damage counters onto stuff to take KOs. Manaphy to protect our bench. Cramorant so that we can start to put a little bit of pressure. Cramorant does 110. Arceus hits for anywhere between 180 and 200. So that 110 plus 200 is enough to knock out most stuff, but still shy on something like the Gardevoir EX, for example. And then we have Radiant Charizard, does 250 massive burst damage. Again, now something like the Charizard and Cramorant Charizard and Sableye Charizard and Arceus, any combination of that is going to knock out anything in the game, and you can do a lot of that with just some single prize Pokemon. Now, the really cool thing is that Arceus has the ability to power itself up. So you can either Trinity Charge to itself and or another Arceus on the bench. Really cool. And Trinity Nova is a great attack that lets you not only do a bunch of damage, but also power up an Arceus on the bench. Again, great way to just kind of ensure that you have Pokemon ready to attack for the following turn. We have a bunch of supporters. We have 4 Chorus, a Raihan, Judge, Clara, Roxanne, Sherrings, and the Boss's Orders. We have a lot of one-of supporters, but they're really not that big of a deal to have one of for 2 or 3 reasons. One, we have Lumineon, which lets us search our deck for any supporter we want. Starbirth let's search our deck for any 2 cards we want. And Palpad, which allows us to reuse some of those one of supporters. So if we want to recycle something like a Sherrins, we can absolutely go ahead and do that. Because we are a Lost Zone deck, we have 4 Battle VIP passes and 4 Ultra Balls to help us find specific Pokemon, including Arceus VSTAR. 4 copies of 4 copies of Pokegear 3.0 lets us search our deck. We have 4 copies of Pokegear so that we can look at the top 7 cards of our deck to find a supporter there. Again, another way of kind of picking out these one-of supporters. 3 copies of Switch, 3 copies of Escape Rope. Now we're running Switch instead of the Switch cart because we have Arceus VSTAR, which is an evolution Pokemon. Switch cart only works on basic Pokemon. But we still need a bunch of switching cards like Escape Rope and Switch because we are still a Lost Zone deck. We have a copy of Hisuian Heavy Ball to get some of our one-of Pokemon out of the prizes. Maybe we really need a Manaphy, a Charizard, whatever. We can go ahead, look at our prizes, pull a basic Pokemon from it, and put Heavy Ball in its place. Then we go ahead, we have Path to the Peak, we have Collapse Stadium, and we have Beach Court. Those are just some really nice stadiums. Path to the Peak is going to help, against things like Miraidon, opposing Lost Box decks, helps against Mew. Collapse Stadium helps against Miraidon and Lost Zone decks. And then Beach Court is just for us to use a little bit of extra, have a little bit of extra mobility without wasting resources. Personally, I think this is a pretty impressive lineup of decks to have played against, and I mean, you can see for yourself there's a variety. Some of the best decks in the game they played against, whether they beat a lot of them, they had a tie and a loss. So I think there's definitely either some adjustments that can be made for this deck, or sometimes you just take a hard loss so you have an unfavored matchup. It's very, very possible. So I mean, if Giratina Lost Zone is the thing that you lose to, well, it's not that popular, so this might actually be a pretty good deck to play. I don't think there's enough matchup data to look at that in Trainer Hill, but maybe as this deck gets a little more popular, we can definitely go ahead and take a look at that. But for now, why don't we get into some gameplay? Alright, we are underway. Fist bump means it's time to go. My opponent draws for turn, and they have the lone Luminion, which is so rough. There's really nothing in their hand. They have nothing to do except they can maybe attach an energy, but they opt to just pass. I draw for turn. We have a Comfy. We got an Arceus V. This is such a wild deck, by the way. I actually really enjoy playing this, but not only do we have the Comfy and the Arceus, but we're going to go ahead and we are going to slam down that Battle VIP Pass, search our deck for any 2 Pokemon or any 2 basic Pokemon we want, and put them directly onto our bench. We can only play this if it's the very first turn of the game. I decided on getting double Comfies. I could have went Cramorant, but I wasn't sure that I would have a way to really attack with Cramorant this turn, so we go ahead, we use the Chorus's Experiment, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put 3 of them into your hand, the other 2 go into the Lost Zone, and we want to make sure that we choose appropriately. I wish I did a better job of showing the cards I picked from the hand, but we get rid of an Ultra Ball and a Fire Energy. Now that we use Chorus, it's time to use Flower Selecting, and I have an energy in hand. I actually have a double Turbo Energy in hand, and I was waiting to attach the energy to see where I really needed that energy to go. But since we already have 3 cards into the Lost Zone, I figured starting to attack and put a lot of pressure with Arceus might be the better direction. And we pass it off to my opponent. My opponent draws for turn, and at least now there's a Judge in hand. They're able to play supporters, so they go ahead, attach the energy, and play the Judge, which honestly, and I was saying this during the game, was a really good Judge because I had an energy and an Arceus VSTAR in hand ready to go. So we shuffle our hands into our deck and draw fresh 4 cards each. And from here, my opponent starts to make some stuff happen. They go ahead, they bench a Zacian V. It's a little hard to see with the glare, so I apologize. And they play a Level Ball. That really nice Pokemon play Level Ball, by the way. They go ahead and they grab the Mysterious Tail Mew, which has a really good ability. When this Pokemon is in the active spot, you can look at the top 6 cards of your deck and find an item card there and put it into your hand. This is great for finding things like rare candies, extra level balls, whatever. Technically, items like, or things like Sky Seal, Stone Force, or something, they're no longer items, so you can't grab them off of the Mew. My opponent retreats into the Mew, and they go ahead and use the Mysterious Tail ability. I adamantly put that ability use marker on there. And they look at the top 6 cards, they just grab another Level Ball. It's probably the safest bet. They can go ahead and use the Level Ball to find themselves a Ralts. Getting Ralts into play is extremely important because, well, without Ralts, there's no Gardevoir, and without Gardevoir, you have no real strategy. So my opponent then uses Roar of the Sword to get a Psychic Energy and pass. Now I draw for turn, and I did find that Arceus VSTAR right away, and what I really wanted to do was boss up their Ralts, or even maybe, probably boss up the Ralts, and go ahead and try to knock it out before it ever gets evolved. I use the Flower Selecting, find the top 2, look at the top 2 cards, put 1 of them in the hand, 1 into the Lost Zone. So now Cramorant is live. We can use Cramorant's ability to start attacking, and because 4 in the Lost Zone. So remember, your markers are 4, 7, and 10. Pokegear to look at the top 7 cards of our deck, find a supporter that, in that 7, and put it into our hand. Like I said, I'm really looking for a boss, because then what I can do is search my deck for an escape rope or a switch or something. I just don't have. I have the switch. No, the switch. That's the Pokegear right there. You can see in my hand, I really don't have much, so I need to find an energy and a switch, and I just don't find anything off of the Pokegear, because if I found Boss's Orders off of the Pokegear, then my Starbirth can be for the switch or the escape rope and an energy. I need 3 pieces. Starbirth only gets me 2, so a little unfortunate. So we go ahead, we Starbirth, and at the very least, I need an energy and a switch card, right? That's just how it has to be. Sometimes you don't always get the things that you want. Now again, here I could go ahead and get a Cramorant and a switch card, and you can see the Cramorant at the bottom of the, well, you can't see it, but I know it's there. Ultimately, I settle on an escape rope and a V-Guard energy. I attach the V-Guard energy to the Arceus to make it a little bit easier or a little bit more difficult for my opponent's Zacian V to knock out my Arceus, and then I play Escape Rope and make them give me a really uncomfortable choice. Do you give the Lumineon for 2 prizes? Do you give the Ralts? I mean, you never give the Ralts. What do you do? They went for the Lumineon. I get to just take an early 2 prizes. I bench another Arceus V so I can go ahead and, when I Trinity Nova, like I do right now, can accelerate 3 energies to my benched Arceus. My opponent starts their turn while I'm searching for some energies. They draw, they evolve into the Curlia, and they go ahead and get a Fog Crystal out of the way. They go ahead and find a basic Psychic Energy. And you can see there's the energies attached to my Arceus V. They go ahead, they use the Refinement ability to discard that Psychic Energy and draw 2 cards. Refinement just lets you discard any card from your hand to draw 2. It's a really good ability. They go ahead and use Mew's Mysterious Tail to go ahead, look at the top 6 cards, and find an item card from there. Level Ball is looking like a pretty good pickup there. It's a little too early for Sky Seal Stone, so Level Ball is the way to go. They elect to play the Level Ball right then and there. You're going to go ahead and likely grab yourself another Ralts. I don't see why you'd get anything else, but yep, there's another Ralts. They get the Memory Skip Ralts, which can be a little annoying. Memory Skip, if they use it, means that I can't use Trinity Nova on my Arceus V-Star. Kind of annoying, but really not too worried about it. And here comes Roar of the Sword to get another energy onto that Zacian, and that will end my opponent's turn. So I get to draw, and now we have some things that we maybe need to start worrying about. They're starting to establish a bit of a board. We evolve the benched Arceus V into a V-Star. Both are ready to go and start taking some damage. So we go ahead and play Judge. I really don't want them to start setting up too much. So we go ahead and play the Judge, and my opponent did admit that that was a very well-timed Judge because they had some stuff in their hand that they needed, or at least some things they could have made, happen during their next turn. So glad I opted the Judge when I did. So we got a fresh set of 4 cards, and now we can continue to either bench something or just start attacking with Arceus. We have a few different ways we can go. We attach Double Turbo Energy to the Comfey so that we have free retreat next turn, and we just hit with Trinity Nova. Starting with the Zacian V in the active, now they're going to be able to put some damage on. All they have to do is get a single energy attached to the Zacian, but first, a Refinement. They find a Fog Crystal off of that Refinement, which means they can go ahead and play to guarantee get a basic energy. But before they do, they evolve into the Shining Arcana Gardevoir. So now they can use the Shining Arcana ability to look at the top 2 cards of their deck and attach any basic Psychic energies they find there to their Pokemon, or to their Psychic Pokemon. So they find 1, they go ahead and attach from the Shining Arcana. It's a really good ability, and they go ahead and play Worker to draw 3. They really just need to find some cards here. Notice they did get rid of the Penny, which is going to be important later. They go ahead and evolve the bench Ralts into a Curlia, and now they're hitting for what they think is 180. It's actually 150 because of the V-Guard energy, but still, regardless, it's going to be a 2-hit KO anyway. There goes the Refinement on the Curlia, and they're just really trying to build up as big of a hand as they possibly can, try to find stuff. There goes the Fog Crystal, and again, probably just to find either a basic Psychic Energy to attach for turn, or another Ralts. It looks like they're going to go the energy. They're going to try to maximize the amount of damage they can put onto this Arceus V, but this deck is prepared for things like this. They played the Pal Pad. Now, Pal Pad lets them take 2 supporters from their discard and put them back into their deck, and they choose the Worker and the Penny. Here comes the basic Psychic Energy attachment to the Zacian V, and really, they played a supporter, they used all their abilities. I mean, I could use Roar of the Sword, but that would end their turn, so that's not very smart. And they just go ahead and hit for 120, I think it is, or 150. We draw a turn, and now we can start doing some. We have options like Sharon's Care. I don't have it in hand, but the deck does run Sharon's Care. For whatever reason, I found didn't find as many switch outs as I wanted, but a very well-timed Escape Rope does put my opponent into a little bit of an awkward situation here. So now they have to choose do they give up the Curlia or the Gardevoir? They're going to choose the Gardevoir, because what's going to happen, that Curlia can become either, depending on their deck, another Gardevoir, the Shining Arcana, or it can become a Gardevoir EX. A Flower Selecting goes ahead, we get rid of the Manaphy, we're not going to need that. We're getting pretty close to a Mirage Gate, even though I don't think this deck runs Mirage Gate. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we do run Sableye, and getting 10 in the Lost Zone can be a little challenging with a deck that's not super Lost Zone focused. You have your options, but either way, we go ahead, retreat into, and we have to decide, do we want to give up the damage Arceus and let them get the prizes, or do we go into the fresh Arceus and make it a little bit more challenging? We choose the fresh Arceus, and but really not much else to do. We just hit with the Trinity Nova for the KO. My opponent starts, and now this is where them, one, getting rid of the penny mattered, and also us choosing the fresh Arceus. It's going to be too difficult for my opponent to KO this Arceus V-Star. They just can't. If they put too much damage onto the Zacian V in order to take a KO, then the other Arceus just comes in and KOs. Or we go ahead and find ourselves a Cramorant and KO if they get too aggressive on the KO. So they go ahead, they play the Gardevoir EX, they Ultra Ball, they get rid of a Collapsed Stadium, and really we just need to take one KO. Now we can't one-shot that Gardevoir, so we really do need to knock out this Zacian, but again, in order to do more damage, they have to self-damage that Zacian, which is beneficial for us. My opponent is going through their discard to see just how many psychic energies they have, to see could they even take a KO if they wanted to. You see the Roxanne in hand, that could be really problematic. There's the Sky Seal Stone. They go ahead, play the Roxanne. You can only play Roxanne if your opponent has 3 or fewer prizes remaining. Both players shuffle their hand into their deck, and you draw 6, your opponent draws 2. While we're shuffling up, that Sky Seal Stone can be really annoying. It lets you take an extra prize when a basic Pokemon knocks out a Pokemon V-Star or V-Max. So this Arceus could be giving up 3 prizes. Now again, we're so far ahead in the prize race that it really doesn't matter at this point, but either way, something that we should keep in mind. So just another search through the discard pile. They're just going to start compiling those psychic energies and start putting them onto the Zacian. They're doing a little bit of mental math, and they're realizing that it's not enough damage to KO this Arceus V-Star. And even if they do, if they put 2 energies onto that Zacian V and bring it down to 180 health, because remember, Gardevoir's ability, for each psychic energy you put onto your Pokemon, it takes 20 damage. So if they put 2 energies on that thing to take 40 damage, it has 180 health left. Even if they knock out this Arceus V-Star, the other one on the bench is going to be able to KO it. So they go ahead, they put 4 energies onto the Zacian, they take 80 damage. We draw, it doesn't really matter, they did a bunch of damage. We can, even if I'm just showing the boss, even if they had it, did retreat. We had the boss for the game, and very well played by my opponent. So there you have it, Arceus Lost Zone, a thing that I didn't think I'd ever say, but here we are. I hope you enjoyed, found this informative. If you did, let me know in the comments what you want to see next. Do you have any cool deck ideas that I can try out? But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.